All right, well, we are always grateful for his time, but more so during the month of April because we know how crazy life must be if you're in the world of real estate in the month of April when spring has sprung. And look, it's always an uptick in business and transactions during the spring. If you want to know why and our preview of the spring market, that can be found in our previous episode with Blake Ginther. He's our real estate expert, Ginther Group, right here in Winston-Salem. They're a presenting sponsor here on the Triad Podcast Network. Blake, how are you holding up, my man? This is
Hey, man.
this is not your first rodeo in the spring. You're a longtime veteran of this industry. How are
20
you doing?
years. 20 years, which sounds impossible.
Ooh, you get to go to like plural. I've been in this business for decades.
Yeah, not just one, but 2 decades. You're right. I get to add the S. That makes me sound old. And I'm great, man. I love this time of year. I do. I love obviously I said on Facebook the other day how gorgeous it is to live in this, to live in North Carolina. And this part of what we're going to discuss, right? Of positive migration state. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful outside. My Flonase is doing the job, taking care of my allergies, and yeah, it's a great time.
How is the social media game going? Have we seen any incredible videos? Look, I mean, I was poking around on your YouTube channel a little bit before we started this podcast, and I'm seeing like thousands of views on some of the stuff that your talented young son has helped you make.
We're doing a video this afternoon. We're doing another one all around the agents on my team, and the places that they like, who they are, the places that they like, and restaurants that they like. Trying to keep it community, but also focused on some of the agents on the team. Jack and I are gonna sing some stuff about them and about the places. So yeah, man, we're having a blast. And yeah, we went from like literally 20 subscribers to 1,000 and some subscribers in like a 6-week period because of Jack's videos. So I'm having a blast.
Well, tell him I'm interested in helping to up our social media game as well with the podcast. So yeah, let's
Apparently
tell him we'll have lunch. We'll have lunch.
Right?
And
Yeah,
what's
we'll
that?
have lunch and but look, utilize the children and embarrass yourself enough, and apparently people will watch.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's the key. Well, congrats on unlocking some secrets with your exploding YouTube channel. That's fantastic.
Thanks, man.
All right. So I want to talk something a little bit more 30,000 foot view of real estate and how it's trending regionally, nationally, and where North Carolina and the Triad kind of fits in there. But let's at least get kind of a local market reset from you, where things stand here in mid-April.
Yeah, so the market has gotten more competitive, right? We talked about, everybody's so tired of hearing me say the word inventory, but we kept talking about how it picked up, but not quite as high as we thought it would at the end of the year. And the fear was when we would get into this time of year, that is historically where more people move to our city. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but more people are moving here than moving away. And new construction cannot keep, hasn't been keeping up, is not keeping up, and our inventory is getting lower. And most people who have a 3%-ish interest rate, some below, some a little above, don't want to double their interest rate. Right? Shocking. They don't want to go from 3 to 6. And the value gain of going a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller just doesn't make sense. So those folks are removing themselves from the market, which is fine. And frankly, what the whole intention of raising the interest rates was. All that to say that it's still very competitive in our market. And I think it's very confusing for the public because that's not the case across the country. There are pockets that have definitely, especially where more people are moving away than moving to, their market has changed. And whether you want to say fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your position, it is very much impacted our real estate. It is still very, very hot. And you do still need to make very competitive offers.
Yeah. And I think, well, we touch on this every podcast, but we really spent a lot of time talking about this last month, which is the mixed signals that are out there, which is, hey, interest rates are high, maybe let things cool off for a little while. Man, it's just so important. And we're going to get into a lot of the reasons why it's so important for people to understand that things aren't going to cool off. People aren't leaving North Carolina. People are coming to North Carolina. The competition is going to remain. The prices aren't going to go back down to the way they were pre-2021 or 2020. It's, if you see what you want, go after it. And there are ways to do that, even to strategize against the higher interest rates.
Yeah. No, and it's the mindset, man. It really is the expectation that I think a lot of people need to, the interest rates, that might remove you if, the people for 3 years there, dude, there were people who moved because they couldn't get a contractor to build the screen and porch that they wanted. So they just moved, right? There are people who, didn't wanted a bigger mud room and laundry room. So instead of, and the contractors were too busy, so they moved. Right. Well, those things, that's not normal. Right. And so COVID made a lot of that happen. And interest rates made a lot of that happen. And now people, if you have to move, to your point, though, don't worry if you need to, their arms are being utilized and everyone goes, oh, is that dangerous? No, as long as you aren't overextending, which PS in our current environment with loans being as hard as they are, it's pretty hard for you to overextend. It really is. I think the only thing that I'll say is, and I don't know if we have our young listeners, it's tough for perhaps our youngest listeners, because I do think that the younger generation is willing to play job musical chairs more than our generation and the older generation.
Sure.
Even millennials, by the way, who is no longer who I'm referencing. So, and it's really hard for them to be competitive in our current environment if you don't have strong due diligence monies, again, talking several $1,000s, and therefore extra cash to be competitive. So, but there are still many options as far as arms. There are still ways to do a lockdown, to do a recast, to get back into the fives when rates do probably drop here in a few months. But I mean, they're going to be high for the next 90 days. I think that's what they're anticipating. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about today, and I might just kind of pepper you with some questions and really let you put on your expert hat, because we traveled out of state during spring break. And we drove all throughout the Southeast. And the thing that I just kept saying to myself, maybe it's just because I was battling so much traffic on the roads, was there are so many people here. There are just so many people here. And I just don't remember it being this bad. And it led me to wanting to bring this up with you, which is the population migration in the United States currently.
Yeah.
The pandemic has a lot to do with that, but interest rates, flexibility with their jobs, cost of living, remote employment opportunities, all these reasons are causing this dramatic shift in where people are wanting to live and choosing to live.
Yep.
North Carolina, according to a study from bankrate.com, North Carolina is number 2 in the nation in 2022. In terms of the inbound percentage of people, of their population increase with people coming from out of state. Number 2 only to Idaho. So in terms of like populous states, it's number 1. And what we're seeing is people are moving from large cities out west. They're moving from large cities in the Midwest, in the Northeast, and they're coming to maybe more remote or less populated states, or they're coming to the Southeast. And North Carolina is one of the places that they're coming to because it offers so much. Cost of living is relatively low compared to those other places, but still offers big cities like Raleigh and Charlotte, and even the Triad to some extent.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, that's what's so important for people to recognize, I think, when it comes to when you're reading headlines about home prices are doing this, or the signs nationally about what the real estate market is doing. Real estate market out west in California is much different than what's happening in the real estate market in North Carolina. So my question to you, Blake, to start us off is, what do you make of this population shift? And then we'll get into, how it's going to impact and where people should expect trends to go in our state and our local market. But these are so directly tied together in terms of where the housing market is going and where the population is going. What are you seeing in terms of what's happening nationally there?
Yeah, I do think that it's for several reasons. North Carolina has positioned itself to be a growth state. And I figured we were in the top 5. I didn't realize we were probably population wise maybe number 1, but we are, no doubt, the Sun Belt, as people refer to it, the Southeast, definitely is I mean, today's like today, it is mid 70s and not a cloud in the sky. It's, we do get a lot of blue sky days. As a kid who grew up in Northeast Ohio, we did not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that realization, probably through social media, I thought about it when I was a kid. I didn't know any differently. I really didn't. If a kid in Ohio growing up didn't know that North Carolina was as gorgeous as it is.
Right.
But thanks to social media, it is glaringly obvious, the pretty places and not as nice weather places. I do think that, not to sound like an oldie, but social media is going to it is playing a big factor into these things. And no doubt population migration is real. It's partly because of work from home. It's partly because of weather. It's partly because of inflation and cost of living being very pertinent.
Mm-hmm.
Growth state, the state literally is wanting the growth. Maybe not as much as the Triad, but Charlotte and Raleigh definitely want that growth, and are incentivizing the growth with companies. So, all these things say, yeah, I mean, if you're in a place that has poorer weather or extremely expensive to live, you are going to have negative migration, right? Population migration, and therefore, if you're a buyer who finds yourself potentially moving to some of those places, you're going to have more choices. So there's the positive. If you're swimming upstream, and buyers who are moving, frankly, at this point in time, California, New York, New Jersey, and the Midwest, are probably going to experience more folks moving away than moving to.
Yep. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you're a buyer in those markets, maybe things are a little easier. Here, not so much.
Yep.
So, everything is not everything, but most things are cyclical, especially as it relates to national population increases and the economics and inflation and everything that we're talking about here. There are ebbs and flows.
Yep.
But even if the percentage increases of how many people are coming to North Carolina, even if that slows, I still think, for all the reasons we've talked about, you're not going to find people leaving this state. Like this, we are growing, and eventually we're going to become, it's going to get higher and higher, and it's not going to go down. It's just maybe going to increase at a smaller rate. Very similar to what we're talking about with real estate prices in our market.
Yep.
So, how do you relate these things to the way the state is growing, the way our metro areas are growing, and how this is going to impact things when it comes to folks that are moving intrastate and not out of the state?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, what will be interesting is if they're moving from like Raleigh to Charlotte, or, or Charlotte to Raleigh, or from one of those locations to the Triad, um, their expectations and their cash on hand is going to vary. Needed cash on hand, right? I
Hmm.
mean, there's in Charlotte and Raleigh now, it's back to $50,000+ DDs, right? It's
Mm.
back to very expensive DDs, which has
Wow.
helped the Triad win a lot of those people because, here we're still in that, $5,000 to $10,000 DD range. It's a lot, but it's not insane. Um, no doubt, by the way, there are still people bringing that mentality,
Hmm.
who came from that and went, well, I mean, a Raleigh buyer is going to win a lot in the Triad because they just lost with 25,000 DD to a 50,000 DD. And here they'll come and they'll go, well, I'll just still offer my 25,000 DD and just win. And they're
Right.
right, they will a lot in the Triad. So the intrastate moving is going to be very interesting depending on which way you're going, um, and expectations around. But I think from a percentage over asking, I don't think the locations are varying that much. I think in a lot of pockets of the Triad, things are back to selling at 110%.
Yeah. How does our market keep up? Is it new construction has to be able to keep up with this? How do we keep up with these trends of people continuing to flock to our state?
Yeah, fortunately, most construction companies are throttling down still. I think that was the real concern I had in the fall, right? Was that the serious, clear incoming economic slide was going to make construction companies pull off the gas, and some of them did. Most of them did not, and
Mm.
that's a very good thing because they need to keep going. Especially, frankly, I don't, what do they like to, I think they like to be called semi-custom builders, but otherwise formerly known as track builders. The big guys, the big boxers need to keep going, and they're building that product that is 275 to 450 that we really miss.
Mm. Yeah. But that's how we're gonna be able to go with this, to keep up with what's happening, right?
Yep.
Is there anything bigger is there any bigger indicator of being able to track along with it than new construction?
Currently, no, because I mean, well, no, let me back up. I think that for us in particular, it's going to always be around companies and jobs
Mm.
that get planted here. Lexington is a booming city, believe it or not, with industrial growth. So, I mean, the Triad in general has a lot of industrial. So that they need to live somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But to your point of inventory getting fixed, it's and the next change that will help inventory will be interest rates. But I do think we are minimum 3 months, probably a little longer before they really adjust that.
And all of this continues to affect rental properties too, right?
Oh, for sure.
Rental prices,
Yeah,
what people are having to pay, if because it's more and more challenging to buy a home, the demand is increasingly there for rental properties, right?
correct. Yeah, very much so. And we are still, Winston is still very affordable compared to Charlotte and Raleigh,
Right.
but
But compared to where it was 3 years ago.
it's night and day. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. I mean, a rental that is 15, 16, 1,700 now was 8, 900, 1,000
Mm.
just a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and also something we touched on last month. How will this impact our more rural counties? Davie County. You already touched on Davidson County with Lexington, but people gotta go somewhere if they want to be here and they can't find anything within the city limits.
No doubt, man. And I think Davidson and Davie are have continued, or we're going to continue to grow and be a big player in our residential development game and our growth. No doubt, Davy and Davidson. Davidson first because of Lexington and it's just bigger population. Davy is close though because a lot of the folks from the lake and Statesville and Hickory, dual income, dual employment positions are choosing Davy. So Davy's in a good spot. I think finally people have been saying Yadkinville was going to start to grow soon. Yadkinville's probably next because Yadkin County, really is geographically a very convenient spot. You can be on a farm in Yadkin County and be in downtown Winston in 25 minutes.
Yep.
Truth, same is still the same for Surrey and Stokes. I think most people who know our area would prefer 421 to 52 currently. But that bypass that gets you over to Greensboro is going to start to play a role for Surrey and Stokes, is starting to already play a role for Surrey and Stokes.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay. What are some statistics, data that you're keeping an eye on right now to see where things might be heading in the next, 4 to 6 months in our local market?
Yeah, I'm looking to see, and I'm looking to see construction costs. I'm looking to see do those start are builders able to get better costs on their products? Wood came down a little bit, but when wood came down, other things went up. Can they get to see some relief on costs, and therefore can we share that to the consumer, or do prices, or does it help them build more at a faster clip than before? Shipping, I'm looking to see, I think our shipping is catching up, but not quite still. You still see you go to Lowe's and Home Depot, you still see some empty, thin aisles. And I guess really we need to hope that inflation, which I think it has, but honestly, Adam, it just needs to we need the consumers to slow down so that shipping can get back, right? And I think this spring, man, with employment and economic, I do think we're starting to see it. It's funny, you just went on spring break before we hit record and you saw all these people. And so I don't know if spending did slow down this, I purpose
not where I was.
Honestly, we made a choice to not go crazy this spring break.
Yeah.
And I think that I talked to several people who also made that choice. So, those types of things will help. They play a role in real estate, right? They will allow us to get, hopefully, construction costs, products can get delivered more, therefore costs can level, not go up. They're not going up at the same clip.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Well, yeah, maybe as we get closer toward, I don't know, summer, people are going to travel a lot and people are going to spend more money and people are out of school and trying to do more things. And I don't know, man, but it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I hope that we can get there. I really do.
My prediction is that the real estate market is going to be very busy for the next 90 days. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't anticipate it being that busy come mid-July on.
Okay.
And I think our government is hoping on that too, so that they can relieve the interest rates.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's certainly what we need. Let's find the balance. Okay. Well, tell us some cool stuff that's going on with the Ginther group. I want to hear more about this drawing contest that I see it on your social media, and I see it on the billboard on Salem Parkway every morning when I drive into my office. I want to hear more about this. This is cool.
Yeah. So took this from a buddy of mine in Arkansas, who I just thought it was so cool that children, and any child, by the way, just rent a child, can draw a picture of any home, doesn't have to be their home, but a drawing of a house, And we're entering them, kind of monthly into drawings, and we're doing it at public schools too, with art teachers, as a way to kind of give back to some of the art teachers, thank them for their tough job, and to support the pump up the arts, for obvious reasons. And so yeah, it's cool to see pictures of a kid. They get to see their photo that they drew up on a billboard on 421, right? As right down close to downtown, right by the hospital. Yeah, that's been really fun. We're coming up with new ways to kind of to give back to the community. In this case, all children can enter and win.
That's really cool. Yeah, look for the billboard on Salem Parkway heading east. Is where I saw it. One of the digital billboards that rotates. And it's all over your social media. It's a really cool thing, and I love seeing the way that you're offering an opportunity for people to showcase their creativity, but then also supporting the ones that help to bring out that creativity in our children. So that's really cool, man.
Thanks, bro.
Okay, so tell the folks how they can find the Ginther Group for all of their real estate needs and or questions.
Yes, so on the interwebs at theginthergroup.com, or give us a shout at 336-283-8689, 283-8689.
And I promise, if you check out their social media, you will not be disappointed. Check them out on social, their YouTube channel, Ginther Group. You can find the running story of the singing realtor, which is now making a recurring appearance. So really strong social media content. Encourage you to check it out as well. Thanks for listening to our podcast as well. Subscribe, rate, review wherever you are listening to us. And Blake, my friend, talk to you again next month.
Thank you, brother.